Right. Good, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Tayside Contracts Joint Committee. I'd like to remind the Joint Committee that the public part of this meeting will be recorded and placed on the Tayside Contracts website for public viewing. Members should keep their microphone on mute throughout the meeting unless they are speaking. I will now ask the clerk to take us through the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start by taking a roll call. Councillor Nicholl.
Present.
Councillor Fotheringham.
Present.
Councillor Wan.
Present.
Councillor Tommy Stewart.
Present.
Councillor Shepherd.
Present.
Councillor Durno.
Present.
Councillor Cuthbert.
I'm here.
Councillor McCall. Councillor Grant Stewart.
Present.
Councillor Welch. I've received apologies from Councillor Forbes. I believe Councillor Anderson is here as a substitute.
I'm here.
Councillor Shires. Councillor Caroline Shires. Councillor Mills.
Good morning, I'm here.
Councillor Lynn.
Present.
Councillor Short.
Good morning, I'm here.
Councillor Scullin.
Morning, present.
Councillor Shears. And I've received apologies from Councillor Duncan. That completes roll call.
No, it'll be, so you've got the apologies, so it'll be declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest? I don't see any hands, so next time. Minutes of the previous meeting.
This is the minute held on from the meeting held on the 17th of November, and this is attached for approval.
Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Try again this. Right, item 4, membership Angus Council. The clerk would.
This is just to note that Councillor Derek Wan has been appointed as a member of Tayside Contracts Joint Committee as a replacement for Councillor Jack Cruikshanks, who has resigned.
Thank you. All right, item 5, the quarterly performance update, quarterly 3 to 1 October 2025 to 31st of December 2025. Dougie, would you like to introduce this report, please? Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chair. So this is the key performance report for the third quarter of the year, highlighting the challenges and progress from the 1st of October 2025 to the 31st of September 2025. And it's based on the performance dashboard. The report also provides a summary and update relating to other areas of performance for 25-26, not covered on the dashboard, but previously provided through some standalone reports and updates. So just a summary of some of the key points. So within section 5.1 of the report provides a RAG status of the key themes within the dashboard. There are currently 10 key themes indicators covered within the report, within the dashboard. And as has been summarised in table 8, 8 are green and considered to be on track, 1 amber slightly behind where expected, and 1 red. And these are detailed within the report. Some of the key organisational points and strengths, so there's continued to be good financial performance, school meal numbers are also positive, along with climate action and procurement. And as I've referenced, a couple of areas that we're needing to focus on is the area round about the catering complaints, which is amber, and the sickness absence, which is currently in a red position. So just a couple of points. School meal uptake. So overall, school meal uptake remains strong at 98% of our budgeted levels. Meal numbers are slightly lower in some of the areas within PKC, at 83. These have been affected by a number of days where the utility services weren't available in some of the secondary school meals, but nothing of an overarching concern for ourselves. In terms of school meal uptake versus school roll, overall 54.1%. For the three areas, Angus 49.1, Dundee 56.3, and Perth and Kinross 56.6. Under our climate change, again, continue to make good progress with regards to decarbonisation. So 92.8% of our fleet is currently classed as low carbon, and 1/3 of the fleet are currently electric. And our CO2 emissions per mile continue to fall year on year. So we're continuing to meet those strategic aims. With regards to health and safety, total accidents increased compared to the same period last year from 84 up to 89. We've got 13 reportable accidents to the Health and Safety Executive, so RIDDOR accidents, 13 compared to 12 last year. However, we're still below our key performance indicator target of 15, which hopefully will be in that position by the end of this financial year, only a number of days away. Sickness absence, as has been reported within the RAG position, this is the one that's currently sitting at a red status and has taken quite a significant spike within the last quarter. So overall, our sickness absence is sitting at 7.1%, above our target of 6.2%, and there is no specific area where the impact is. There's been an increase across our frontline services and our office-based position. So some of the key areas, they're not new. So stress continues to be one of the highest areas. That's not just work-related stress, that's stress, depression, stress away from the workplace, and something that we've continued to engage with through our wellbeing strategy. As was reported within national press, there was quite a significant peak in flu at an early stage of the season, and we have seen that coming through within the figures for the year. And overall, the cost of sickness absence, purely direct cost, is currently 1.3 million within the year, so quite a significant cost to the organisation, and something that we continue to work to address. So I'm not in a position to be able to give any detailed information round about specifics of that spike within Q3. It's something that we're currently still investigating, looking at the areas and the causes, and seeing if there's anything that we need to do to implement anything additional. The one thing that we are continuing is implementing our sickness absence management policy. So there's various trigger points of when we bring in to establish why employees, etc., are off. And lastly, just a couple of other points I want to bring up within the performance report that's not on the dashboard. At the annual APSE Performance Awards, our Transport Services team had been nominated for a Most Improved and the Best Performer award. They were successful in getting the Most Improved award, which is really good. Our community fund for the year, we've assisted with 93 community groups, totalling an equivalent of 110,000 in value. 36 of these were our short applications, and 57 were our full applications. And we've given a breakdown within the report of how that's spread across the three areas. And then lastly, with regards to winter maintenance, started off at the beginning of the season being one of the lowest winter maintenance treatment hours, so about 12,000 hours compared to an average of 15 for this particular period that we're reporting on. But early within Q4, we've seen pretty much a significant swing the other way around, where there was additional 10,000 hours within about 3 weeks, which put that more on the middle to the higher range of average hours. And during that particular time, as everyone will be aware of, there was significant disruption within the Aberdeenshire area. I'm pleased to say, through the working relationships that we have with all 32 councils, and we were all able to offer some mutual aid within the Aberdeenshire area with some snow clearing. So that's all the key points I want to pick up within the quarterly performance report, Chair.
Well, thank you very much for that, Dougie. Are there any questions? We've got Lynn Short for a start, then Derek Warren.
My question is regards to, sorry, I'm coming in a bit echoey. Is that better? Yeah. My question is with regards to the absence. Now, obviously, you can kind of look at the various theories, Dougie, and sometimes it is just one of those things. But I was wondering with regards to benchmarking. Obviously, in TCs, you can benchmark across yourself because you've got 3 specific local authority areas that you deal with. But do you also benchmark against the other, it'd be 29, I guess, local authorities with regards to your sickness, absence, etc.?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Short. Yeah, we do benchmark with the, if you would say, the 3 councils. The one point you would make is that we cover a significant amount of the frontline services which other local authorities would normally cover. So there are some areas that we can benchmark against. So on the front line, there's not so much of a comparison within the 3 councils, but we can do that within the wider group, and we do that through APSE. So Association of Public Service Excellence. And we also look at industry as well, if there's any areas that are that we can take anything from to give us a comparison. What I would say is that the increase in the levels of sickness absence, what we've been advised, are also happening within council areas. So it's not unique to Tayside contracts. There has been an increase across the 3 council areas and within local government itself.
Okay, thanks very much, Dougie. I guess it's that really important thing that having that APSE information, it just doesn't show you when you're doing exceptionally well. It also gives you the opportunity to compare and contrast with others. So always great to hear that the APSE are giving that edge to local authority organisations. That was a wee odd.
Thank you. Councillor Derek Warren.
Thank you, Chair. First question being on Tayside contracts. Thank you very much. It's on the Ridder incidents. You've got a KPI of 15. We're currently sitting at 13. Can I ask, first of all, how do we get the KPI figure of 15 when Ridders, we really want to try and negate these to 0 if we can, because these are serious reportable incidents. And the second part to that question is, how serious are some of these incidents, when they're being reported to the health and safety?
Thank you, Councillor Wan. The target is based on historical information, so we want to, and I agree, ideally we want to have no incidents and definitely no ridders. Unfortunately, we do work within quite a high-risk area, particularly within the construction division. What I would say is, so the targets are set, or the KPIs are set on historical information, which I'm pleased to say we have been reducing year on year. Our trend, I think, over the last 5 years has been a reduction in those RIDDOR incidents, and similarly with our overall accidents, a trend line. There are peaks that are represented within that in some years. I'm also pleased to say that in relation to RIDDOR, although the RIDDOR reportable, there's nothing that's come within that serious category of reporting to the Health and Safety Executive. So I can't say 100%, but I think these relate to the reaching the reference period of 7 days of absence rather than being serious injuries, for example, broken limbs and, serious injury to employees.
Thank you. Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, Convener. This is really something that Brenda and I were discussing earlier. There is a Gulf War going on. Fuel prices are going through the roof. I'm just wondering, in terms of Tayside contracts, how we're planning for that. Can we buy fuel through the futures market? Is it predetermined? Can we store extra fuel? Are we reducing the amount of mileages we're doing with the fuel prices going up and so on? Is there any planning for that?
Yeah, it's part of the budget process, and we'll cover that within that particular paper. Regards fuel, we're in fuel contracts, so framework contracts that we're tied into for fuel, and I think what we're able to demonstrate is that we're getting the best benefit that we can from these particular contracts. Being able to bulk buy ourselves and store isn't something that we can do, and it is just about that risk management of seeing where we are with regards fuel. Similarly with bitumen, but I would expect that if this is a longer term crisis that we're seeing in the Middle East, it could impact on a number of other sort of goods and services that we've got. So all I could like to give the committee the reassurance is that all these areas, so if it is about unnecessary travel, it shouldn't have to be because we've got a fuel crisis. That should be something that we're doing anyway. It's making sure that we are maximising and making the efficient use of all the resources that we've got, and we'll continue to do that. But it's an area that we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on closely within our service delivery and from our sort of our budget and financial control.
Is there any process where you could actually order, pay for it and not store it process? Like, so that you're getting the price that you order it now. I'm thinking about salt and just various other things that are coming in from abroad. And remember before when COVID hit and we were buying equipment for the lorries and vans, and remember you couldn't get the equipment and you had prices. Is there any way you could go through all the contracts and to see if you could maybe anticipate what you might be purchasing and ask them to quote you the price and hold it, so that when the prices do rocket, we've got in a contract? Is that possible?
I can't say if that exists within the contracts. From the previous experience we had a couple of years ago, my experience is that what we'll be faced with if this goes longer term is that any requests for goods and services will be fixed within a very short period of time. So to get somebody to commit to, for example, if you said, I want to purchase 10,000 litres of fuel right now, but I might not use it for 6 months, you won't be able to tie into the price because that's then a risk back to that organisation that could be facing these particular increases. So everyone is having to deal with this on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis because of things like shipping. That does have an impact. So areas like salt, but we were fortunate enough that we had a restock mid-season. So I think our salt stocks, I think fair to say, guys, are probably at that level what we'd be looking to start at the beginning of next season. So we're not having to bring in, so we're fortunate enough in that particular area.
And obviously in Diane's report as well, there's a paper on stocks as well. So I suppose it's a whole stock thing that'll need to be evaluated, but Diane will probably go into it in her report. Next.
Right, I'll bring in Paul Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. I think Dougie perhaps picked up what I was going to say, but just to reassure members, the purchases for energy are through a national framework set up through the Scottish Government, and as part of that, any prices that we pay will be negotiated in advance. In addition to that, what they try to do is purchase any energy well in advance, so that mitigates, some of the volatility, the volatility that we're seeing just now in terms of worldwide prices, etc. So we're just in the processes of being advised of what our prices that we will pay under the contract is in 26-27. So those prices will be shared with officers and they will be reflected in terms of any projections moving forward.
Thank you very much. Councillor McCall, sorry we jumped over you, but I thought I'd bring in Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And see if I can you still hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, it's just there was a bit of an echo there. First of all, apologies for being a couple of minutes late. I had an upgrade on my device, that's all I can say. I wanted to go back a little bit to school meals, if I may, Chair, or Convener. The uptake overall of free school meals is at 61%. And while we're tracking reasonably well to budget, if the budget keeps going down to match the actual uptake, I'm just wondering what we can do to increase that uptake overall. If you're and I suppose the other thing is, what are we doing to make sure we're aligned with the public health framework that was published last June, where a large part of the ambition there is about prevention, and also there's ambitions around child poverty right across the whole of Tayside. And so obviously part of that is to ensure children have nutritious food to eat. I'm not doubting the nutritional value of the food, but I am worried about the fact that even when food is free, it's still not been uptaken. 61% isn't a particularly high percentage, I would have thought. So I'm just wondering what's been done to address that, to understand the root causes of that low uptake of free school meals, and what we can learn from that and what we can plan for going forward. Thank you.
Dougie, you bring that.
Yep, this is something that we've been looking at and working with the three councils for a number of years now. Although it's maybe not up at the higher levels of maybe what we would all like to see. We'd love to see 100% of free school meals being taken up. It is gradually increasing. What we're doing, we're working with all three councils. There's a school meal group that engages together to see what we can do, because this isn't just about Tayside contracts. This is about three councils following their statutory requirements to promote free school meals within the school setting. So working jointly together, that's what we're looking to do. We engage through the pupil survey with parents, carers, pupils themselves, to find out if the menu that's being provided, Right UK, is meeting the needs of all, and we've taken that on board, and we just have last week published our new school menu for 26-27, which will come in April. So we're continuing to work with pupils, with our council partners, with parents, with carers, to see whatever we can do to increase that free school meal uptake. It's definitely not something that we're just sitting back on. So I want to give the reassurance that it's an area that's been looked at collectively.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks. If I can go back in, hello? Is the echo gone?
Yeah, come back in.
I don't know what's causing the echo. Dougie, thank you for that answer. I do know that there's a lot of work going into this, but it is concerning with the increases, and everything, including the supply of food as well, will also be impacted by the current issues that in terms of this American-Israeli Gulf War. So I think I'll follow up with the school meal group representatives from Perth and Kinross and see what the findings are. I think what would be interesting to know, in particular, if you're looking at that, is the age demographics of uptake. I know in the past that when there was free school meals up to primary 7 or primary 3, I think, or 7 or 8 years old, it was quite high, and then it dropped off when people had to start paying. So I think it would be interesting to know that, so we can understand better as a council where we need to target promotion of school meals more. So if that could be provided, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Tommy Stewart.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, could we get a bit of a insight into the winter maintenance programme? I noted 6.7 that you've done actually 3,000 hours below the 10-year average in the last quarter, or last year rather. My question surrounds, recently we had instances in Angus where we had gritters out while it was torrential rain, which I thought was a waste of money. given that all the salt would be getting washed down drains while they were out gritting. So we're just looking for a bit of insight on who actually organises the programme for when the gritters go out and such like.
Thanks, Councillor Stewart. So the decision making round about when we as Tayside Contracts are action to go out, what we're to do, as in the treatment, comes from the client. So within Angus Council, they have decision makers within there that assess the road conditions, assess the weather, and determine when we go out. So there's an action plan that's issued round about lunchtime every day, either to advise to go out in the evening as a pre-grit, depending on what the weather conditions are, or in the morning. And sometimes that is within there's marginal sort of conditions. So it could be that there's rain coming in, and then there's going to be a clear sky, and there's the danger of the roads freezing up. So it's not an easy thing to do round about decision making and when we should go out to treat. Like everything, sometimes it's absolutely spot on. Sometimes there's areas that you can learn from. Would it have helped not putting out, or would there be a delay of maybe half an hour for somebody to go out? We're talking about routes that are to be covered within about 3 hours. Majority of the routes within Angus Council are 3 hours long. So again, there has to be a determination of that risk of putting salt down, and there being a treatment that's going to be able to deal with any ice or frost that's going to come in.
Supplementary.
Go ahead.
Yeah, could you just tell us how much each treatment costs? A 3-hour run, roughly how much that costs for doing that?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I'm quite happy to give an indication of what that would be.
Thank you. Councillor Shires.
Thanks, Convener. My apologies too. I too was had the upgrade going on my Surface Pro, so apologies for being late in. My question follows on from Councillor Wan's about the Ridder incidents, and it was regarding the reporting of near misses. How it was to get an understanding about how that is communicated to on-site managers or to staff about what constitutes a near miss, how to identify something that needed to be reported, etc.
Yeah, near misses is something that we try and collect as much information as possible. So Instant Triangle will show us that if we've got those 15 reportable incidents at the top, we've probably got 150 near misses at the bottom. What we do have is we operate with regards to our safety. We have a safety steering group which covers managers to look at the overarching information that we're coming back. That is a reactive approach because the incident's happened. We have we have cards, QR codes, that are available for all employees to be able to identify if they've had a near miss, and that gets fed back into the system for us to be able to pick up. So that's encouraged across all areas of the organisation, not just frontline services. So in summary, we are well aware of the need to pick up near misses, to encourage and ensure that everyone reports these back rather than being hidden away, so that we can deal with these and prevent any incidents. So accidents themselves, which are reporting 89, and then 15 of these which have then had to be reported to the Health and Safety Executive. And health and safety is on all the agenda items that we have within the organisation. So say from a senior management side of things right the way down to frontline engagement. And one of the things that we have been introducing for quite some time, but re-emphasising, is toolbox talks. So for people that are going out to undertake activities, for example, on a Monday morning, if there's a key activity that they're doing that we feel that there's a risk that needs to be picked up, very short, sharp, couple of minutes, just briefing the workforce of the risk round about that to actually get that in their psyche for that day's work ahead.
Thank you. Is there any more questions? Any more questions to this item? If not, is this report noted? Noted. Item 6, the external audit annual audit plan. Diane, will you speak to this report? Thank you.
Thank you. This report presents the external audit annual plan for 2025-26. It's been prepared by Audit Scotland, who continue to be our appointed external auditors. The plan sets out the scope of the audit, the key risk areas that will be subject to focus testing, the audit timetable and the agreed audit fee, which is already provided for within our revenue budget. As in previous years, the audit will cover both the financial statements and the wider scope arrangements, including financial management, financial sustainability, governance, leadership and best value. The key areas of audit focus this year include the risk management of, the risk of management override of controls and the valuation of the pension liability, both of which are standard risk areas for public sector bodies. There are no new or unexpected issues arising from the plan. We have Peter Lindsay, the Audit Manager, online today. I'm going to pass over to him. And Peter, do you have anything else to add? Thank you.
Thanks, Diane. Ross is just going to do a brief presentation, a couple of minutes, just to take you through the key points of the plan.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Diane. So this is our annual audit plan for the 25-26 audit year. This is the 4th year of our 5-year audit appointment. So you'll look to page 21 of your agenda pack and you'll see the report within there. Pages 26 and 27 set out the scope of our report. Set out the scope of our audit, the responsibilities as auditors and Tayside Contracts responsibilities. In particular, we would like to draw the committee's attention to paragraph 9, which is on page 20, the bottom of page 27 within the agenda pack. This advises that in line with ISA 240 and presenting the plan to the Joint Committee, we seek confirmation from those charged with governance, which we deem to be the Joint Committee, for any instances of actual, suspected or alleged fraud. So if you have any instances of these that you're aware of, please bring it to the attention of myself or Peter. In terms of the audit of the annual accounts for 25-26, as Diane said, we have our key risks here and we also have our materiality levels. So our materiality levels are shown in Exhibit 1, which is on the bottom of page 28 of your agenda pack. The Exhibit 2 highlights our significant risks for the audit. We have identified the significant risks of management override of control, and that is a standard risk for all audits. We have also identified the risk of the estimation of the pension liability. This in particular relates to the value and the estimation involved in assessing the pension liability. For both of these risks, our planned audit work is also included in Exhibit 2. And moving on to Exhibit 3, this sets out the audit timetable for 25-26, and paragraph 29 on page 37 shows our audit fee for the year as well. So we're also happy to take any further questions that the committee might have.
Any questions to this report? Councillor Cuthbert.
Thank you, Convener. Yeah, my question is for Lindsay. It's to do with the timing. Do we have an indication of when the audit's going to start, when it's going to finish? There's been quite a lot of pressure, I think, on Audit Scotland in fulfilling other audits. So I'm just wanting to make sure that what the plan is and how it's going to work this year. Thank you.
Diane or Dougie?
Sorry, that was meant for Lindsay.
Me,
Peter.
Yeah. I think that question was directed at me. Sorry. Yeah, we're starting off the audit with similar timescales to last year. We're starting off the audit of the annual accounts at the start of September, which is the same timescales as last year. Obviously, we're striving to get back to the original deadlines, which would be before the end of September. And we would hope to get to that position for the final year of the audit, but unfortunately, we can't guarantee that.
Come back again.
Yeah, thanks. And the other part of the question on this, I think there was a supplementary fee last year for incomplete paperwork or something. I'm not sure if it was Tayside contracts or Tayside Valuation Joint Board. I just wanted to make sure that that all the information has been requested that you need, and that's going to be prepared on time.
Yeah, there was no supplementary audit fee last year. We received all the working papers in the previous year's, last year's audit that we needed, and that allowed us to sign off on time and in line with the timescales. So I think that might have been the valuation joint board you're thinking of, as you say.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any more questions? No more questions. Can this report be approved?
Agreed.
Thank you. Item 7, audit follow-up. Diane, again, could you speak to this report?
Thank you. So this report provides an update on progress in implementing the internal and external audit recommendations that were agreed during 2024-25. Members have previously asked for clear oversight of outstanding audit actions, and this is the first structured follow-up report to support that. In relation to internal audit, there were 14 agreed recommendations. Of these, 8 have been fully implemented, 5 partially implemented and progressing, and 1 has made limited progress to date. Overall, the majority of actions are either complete or moving in the right direction, which reflects a positive management response to the audit findings. For external audit, there were 7 agreed recommendations, 2 have been fully implemented, 1 is progressing, and the remaining 4 are not yet past their agreed completion dates. There are no recommendations assessed as having little or no progress at this stage. Where actions remain outstanding, these are largely linked to capacity or procurement timelines, and revised completion dates have been set out transparently in Appendix 1. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Is there any comments or questions? Doesn't appear to be any comments or questions. Is this report noted? Noted. Item 8, supported self-assessment of Tayside contracts, update on recommendation and action progress. Dougie, will you speak on this one?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this report provides an update on the progress made against the recommendations set out within the supported self-assessment report, which was approved by the Joint Committee on the 23rd of November 2023. So that was report GC 35. And it's also a follow-up to the engagement session, which was undertaken this year on the 22nd of January, and which was well received. So the supported self-assessment was commissioned jointly by the 3 councils and Tayside Contracts in February 2023, and led by independent expert Keith Winter. So the assessment confirmed that Tayside Contracts model remains valid, with opportunities for improvement in relationship consistency across all councils, structural capacity for business development, and strengthening collaboration and governance against all arrangements. It also identified there was no benefits in any of the councils stepping away from the current shared model. So in summary, within the action plan detailed in Appendix 1, that provides an update on the recommendations identified within the report that I've just made reference to. Of the 15 recommendations, 12 have been completed, 2 are scheduled for completion in 2026, and 1 is due for completion in 2028. Those areas that are still outstanding, so 1 is in relation to partner arrangements with Angus Council, which are well advanced and are going to be looking to go to committee in the spring of this year. Other one is in relation to engagement with the 3 councils and Tayside Contracts round about training opportunities, which again, I'd like to give assurance that when there are opportunities that these do take place. And the last one in relation to the completion in 2028 is just round about a process for best value review. So I'm happy to take any questions in relation to the report, Chair.
Thank you, Dougie. Are there any questions to this report? Councillor McCall. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Dougie, for the report and the update. I think that although I don't know where to start with this because there's a lot of debate about it at the time, the fact that none of the members of the Joint Committee were really meaningfully consulted on this report makes it still, in my view, a little bit flawed. I think that I certainly, as one of the longest standing members of this Joint Committee since 2017, feel that it's very selective in what it's doing. I think I welcome the improvements that have been made, but I do think that it's a little bit disingenuous when there was quite a lot of dissent from members of this committee about the findings and the way that self-assessment was carried out. So I would like to suggest that perhaps once these, we'd like some dates against the things that are ongoing and when they would be completed, and then what the follow-up might be in terms of whether we revisit the self-assessment or whether we see what improvements still are required to be made. Thank you.
Dougie, would you like to reply to that?
Yeah, as I've said previously and at the update in January, I appreciate there are things that maybe didn't or weren't undertaken as maybe members would have liked with regards to the supported self-assessment. What I'm trying to do here is report on what was actually agreed at that time. I will continue to, if you want to say, make the request that what I'm looking to do in the role of Managing Director, along with the corporate leadership team and all the rest of the employees within Tayside Contracts, is about trying to look forward. Where we are looking at self-assessments, that tends to be looking backwards. I'm not saying that there's things that still can't be improved, but we have identified these. I am bringing together a list of engagement sessions of key areas where members have raised in the past of particular items that they may want further scrutiny or awareness of, and that's something that I'm looking to get scheduled in for the remainder of this year, but something even as a programme that goes beyond just 12 months. So for me, I do pick up on those particular points. I think the ones that are outstanding there aren't of great significance, as in, and not necessarily within all the gift of Tayside Contracts. So as I've said, one that's outstanding is in relation to the partnership with Angus Council, but is progressing very well. The other round about council training and opportunities to integrate, that's something that I think will always be ongoing. That's something that I want to make sure that we strengthen that relationship with the three councils. And then the best value was about putting those markers in the sand, so we'd had a self-supported assessment. It was said rather than continue to go through these, that would be 5 years down the line before we were looking at that, and that's the process of, that's the work that needs to be undertaken round about that objective, is what does actually best value mean for the three councils, that particular review. I think best value, I would refer to, rather than it being best value, it will be that assessment if there's to be an ongoing self-assessment on a frequency, that we put something within a document that covers the points that all partners want to be considered as part of that process.
I can come back in, Chair?
Yes, come back.
Thank you, Dougie. I appreciate that a lot of work has been done, and I don't underestimate the amount of effort that's been put in by you and your colleagues. But I just think that we shouldn't just rely on this, and other issues have been raised that perhaps weren't included in the self-assessment, and we need to consider how we incorporate those somehow, so we're doing continuous improvement rather than just saying this is a single point of vision. And you're quite right about looking backwards. I'd be much happier if we started to look forwards a lot more on these things. But yeah, so if these can be taken on board, and if you're following through on those things, I'll be very pleased. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Short.
Thank you. I've said comment, but I think actually it is probably a question as well. Dougie, I remember, again, here I go again, it was an APSI event and we were in Bristol, and I was still in Bristol, and I was actually part of a smaller cohort of elected members who got involved in the if I remember rightly, it was the creation of the dashboard, and how successful that's been. And I think one of the things that came out loud and clear from those small sessions was that often Tayside contracts were in a position that relationships are very much often an officer level when it comes to discussing the various policies, objectives and deliveries between the local authorities and Tayside contracts. And sometimes those relationships weren't particularly strong within the local authorities themselves. And that perhaps may have been one of the issues when it came back to that, why is this happening? And we don't agree with this as a policy idea. And I just wondered how those relationships had moved forwards. I had a question, for example, with today's papers, and I very quickly wrote to Paul Thompson, and Paul got his team to come back and very much give me the answer. So I know that within my local authority, Paul Thompson is that man with the answers, or he knows where the answers can come from. But how are those relationships across all of the elected members who sit on the Tayside Contracts Board and the local representation within the local authority that speaks to you on a regular basis? Please.
Yep. Councillor Shaw, I'm really happy with the engagement and the interaction that we have from, and I'll say from chief executive level, right the way down to where we've got operational meetings. So the engagement with chief executives, with our governance and strategy group, that has been changing, but the engagement I've had within the 9 months since being into post, I can't sit here and say that there's like everything else, there's always room for improvement, but not to the point where I'm sitting going, I can't actually undertake my duties as the managing director because I've not got appropriate engagement at a management level. And similarly, at the various other levels within the organisation, I'm getting positive feedback from all my staff that there is that interaction, there's a sharing of information, and that's good, bad and different at times. It's not always about saying that everything is rosy in the garden. If there are things that we need to address, people are able to honestly and openly raise that without there being any issues or fear of, some reaction in a negative way. So overall, I'm more than happy within the first 9 months that things are progressing the way I would expect in this role.
Dougie, I think my question was probably a little bit clumsy, so I do apologise. My question was more geared towards elected members and their local connection within their local authority as a way to understanding what their local authority wish, desire and are being delivered from Tayside contracts. So maybe not necessarily what you can answer, but can you perhaps give that answer on behalf of the 3 members who sit as there is a name, the point of contact with Tayside contracts between that sort of relationship that bridges across elected members and the named person in the local authority?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's the governance and strategy group you're talking about as the GSG. So these are the council representatives. So when we sit and there's a remit of what the role of that particular group is, they also then have an engagement with the representatives of all the three councils. So each of the 6 members. But also I have a meeting with the office bearers. So the chair today. So Vice Chair and Vice Chair-elect, where we are also, I'm engaging with them to understand if there's anything that we need to be taking on board as Tayside contracts, if that's through anything in relation to, say, a governance side of things, but can also be down to that sort of operational level. Now, we've only had 2 of these in my tenure. I think that's something that still can be developed. and improved on. But as I said, that interaction that I'm aware of between the officers on the governance and strategy group, of the representatives of the joint committee, and then myself with the office bearers, again, there's nothing that I'm saying is raising concerns for me that we'd put a flag up to say there's something got to change. There's always, as I said, room for improvement. We can learn from things that go well and don't, and that's one of the areas where I've made reference to the engagement sessions. So rather than just interaction being here at a formal joint committee, how do I interact with all the elected members in some of these engagement sessions that I'm proposing? I think is a good fit in between that, as well as regular updates either through our spotlight mechanism or even just briefings to members, rather than the formal 4 times a year that we sit here on a joint committee.
Thank you very much for that, Dougie. Councillor Shires.
Thank you, Convener. Just to agree very much with the comments that Councillor Short made, I've been on this committee for getting on for 20 years now, and we've seen a lot of change, and I think the last couple of years have been difficult in some ways, but actually I think where we've got to now is positive. But Lynn's entirely right that it's about those relationships and everybody pulling in the same direction, and that has to be forward. So it's to thank Dougie and your team for the engagement, to thank Keith previously for starting the ball rolling on this. It's been really helpful. There's a lot of learnings that have taken us to this point, and I hope that we can look forward. And if anyone ever has conversations with colleagues elsewhere in the country, many of them are very envious of the model that we've got here, and it's how do we grow the model and make it work as things change for the future. So very positive for me. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Is there any more questions? No more questions. Is this report noted then? Noted. Item 9, the overview of the introduction of meat-free days within the school meals. Dougie, will you introduce this report? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So this is a follow-up to a question that was raised by Councillor Forbes back in August. Unfortunately, obviously can't be here for the report, but it will be circulated. So this was about how meat-free days were introduced within the school meal setting. So the report provides that particular overview, the reasons, the rationale, why. So introduced within the nursery and primary school menus. The report outlines the financial implication, nutritional, operational implications of potentially removing these. And just very briefly, so these were introduced back in April 2019, following engagement with the officers across the 3 council areas, and it was identified that this would assist in addressing issues at that particular time around about environmental responsibility, aligned with the actual Soil Association Food for Life. So back in 2019, there was a desire for ourselves and the councils to get engaged with that and look at round about a bronze award. At that particular time, there was restrictions that wouldn't allow us to be able to get that particular award, but there was a desire to follow the principles as we do in a number of other areas. As I've already covered, also reinforced the nutritional regulations which had come in 2020, restricting red meat and processed meat within the school meals. And the introduction of meat-free days isn't unique to Tayside contracts or the 3 councils. We're now at the point roughly about 2/3 of all Scottish local authorities have this within their meal setting, so 20 out of 32. So just reviewing where we've been, the days where we've got a meat-free day, there is no impact with regards the additional waste. So there was a question, was there waste? We're producing meals, but does anyone want to actually take these? There is no evidence to say that there's a decline on these particular days compared to when there's meat on the menu. Of all the time this has been implemented since 2019, we've only had one inquiry where someone has asked if we could have meat on the menu every day. And say it also aligns with sort of the national environment and sustainability agenda and objectives, and also the supports the education around about healthier eating habits. So, in summary, removing the meat-free days, as is being covered within the report, and introducing meat back into it would cost approximately £95,000. And it would also take away from that national agenda round about the environment, nutritional and sustainability. If we were, it would also have operational impacts of us reintroducing that back within the menu every day, and that's something that we can't just take lightly of being able to do that. And I would like to say that, hot off the press last week, as I've already mentioned, that we've issued the school meal menu for 26-27, which will go live in April. And just over the last 3 or 4 days, I've received really positive feedback in relation to changes that we made round about the school meal menu, and parents, carers and pupils looking forward to being able to sample that menu. So I'm happy to take any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dougie. Is there any questions? Caroline Shears, thank you.
Thanks, Convener. And firstly, thank you very much for the report. It's really helpful, Dougie, and it gives us something to reference to parents and carers about, why the menus have been the way that they are. I too received positive comment over the weekend from parents regarding the menus, and would point people to the video released by someone who I know has been in a great deal of contact with Tayside Contracts about all of this debate. I suppose my question is about ongoing engagement with schools and parents and carers around menu development. For me, this wasn't, and this is where Councillor Forbes and I had a bit of conflict, it wasn't about the meat-free days, it was about the promotion of choice. So if you chose that your children didn't eat what are classed as ultra-processed foods of corn, sausages and things like that, it was making sure that there was a choice on the menu that meant your kids didn't have those particular items and not necessarily the meat. My second question is about our involvement with Pro-Veg UK. They are, in my opinion, and that of a lot of other people's, a very pro-vegan body, as opposed to promoting that wider choice across the menus. A couple of weeks ago, a number of councillors from Perth and Kinross attended an event run by Quality Meat Scotland, where we got to see some of the local farms in Angus and Perth and Kinross, where meat cattle is bred, and the whole food meat supply chain, and the health benefits to children and young people. So that was really positive and helpful as well. So my questions were around the ongoing engagement and about whether we can have a discussion about involvement with Pro-Veg UK and the issues I have and others do too. Thank you.
Dougie, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so on the first one, round about the engagement, as I sort of touched on previously, we do have menu development group, the engagement with the 3 council partners through our Tayside Facilities Partnering Group that is engaging with, again, parents, carers, pupils. We put out the consultation survey. So these are areas where we are continuing to work with with all those stakeholders to make sure we've got the right menu that everyone wants to eat. So if that's taken into account, the free school meals, how can we get that uptake increased? All goes back to we've got to make sure we've got a menu, right, okay, that meets the regulations, but people actually want to eat, and we will continue to do that. So what will happen when the menu is launched in April? We will, after 4 weeks, I think, as a booking, we will then again consult. We will engage with the stakeholders to make sure that what we put out there is actually, delivering it isn't a case of being able to do a whole-scale review of the all come back saying we want everything changed, but there's opportunities for us to tweak and make adjustments round about that. So, and I'd like to think that given where we are and the positive comments that we've received and the changes that we've made to the menu, we do listen, right? Okay, and we've always said that it's not something that we can just change overnight. It's a significant process putting a menu together to make sure it's compliant with the regulations. I think we're at something like 1,600 adapted meal menus that we've got to go through for all those that have got other areas that we've got to take into consideration. But we will continue to engage with the stakeholders to make sure that we've got the best menu possible that ties in with regulations, that's healthy, nutritious, but also that they want to eat. In relation to the second question round about pro-veg, Tayside contracts and the three council partners aren't aligning themselves to say we are completely pro-veg. It's one of these, it's an area, so I made reference to the Soil Association previously about being able to be accredited to something. So I personally, maybe not of the same view as it purely driven from a vegan point of view, but you know that's all sort of how you interpret the information. It's about us being able to engage with someone who, and that's a sort of a UK-wide recognised a group, and are doing a lot of research, right, okay, to be able to support some of the areas that are coming up in questions, as you've made reference to, like ultra-processed foods. For Tayside contracts, we also engage with the National Farmers Union. As I've advised previously, we are looking at what we can do to engage with the supply chain within our local area, and something that we're currently pulling together the options round about that. So, as we've undertaken previously, we held a couple of events, one within Angus, one within Perth, round about inviting the local providers along with the key stakeholders that we have within our procurement chain. So if that's through meat, if that's through veg, if that's through milk, if that's through sort of cereals, that we want to get them involved, bring them together to see that how we can ensure that we're getting local produce coming through. So it isn't all about you know, if you want to say a pro-veg. So the fact that we're aligned with Quality Meat Scotland, you know, the products that we have on our menu are compliant with that, and that was through decisions that were made from the joint committee. So all these, if you want to say, standards that are out there, it's something that we are continuing to liaise with all the appropriate bodies to make sure that we are doing the best we can and are getting the right produce coming in to make those meals.
Thank you very much, Dougie. Just for noting, we've got 3 different forms of putting your hands up, so don't think I am jumping over anybody else who thinks that they might be next to go. We take them first come, first serve. Next is Councillor David Cuthbert. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. It's a fairly simple question. The £95,000, is that the cost to Tayside contracts, or is that the cost to all the 3 councils and Tayside contracts combined? So is that the total cost?
Yeah, that's the total cost. So that would be what we took was a particular meal on the day that's currently meat-free and reintroducing meat back within that. So that would be 95,000 for all 3 councils collectively.
Thank you. Councillor Lynshort, thank you.
Thank you. If we had, and this is not what I'm advocating for at all, but if the decision was made to have non-meat free days, it wouldn't be all meat, there'd still be choice.
Yeah, so still choice as there is right now, so that the ask from Councillor Forbes was about not having meat-free days, so there'd be meat on the menu 5 days a week for the 4 weekly cycles.
Okay,
but you still
thanks.
have the other options.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. And yeah, thank you for the paper. Hopefully it will put everybody's mind at rest that this is the right thing that we're doing.
Thank you. Councillor Martin Shepherd.
Thank you, Convener. Yeah, the report was useful. And the only thing that I want to see maybe a little bit more was of what were the kids thinking on this? Are they aware of the meat-free day? Is it something that they is it something they don't enjoy? Are they glad when it's passed? I know that it's been mentioned there's going to be a review, and is that something that is we're going to maybe see some feedback on, like quite direct questions, like do they miss the meat on meat-free day? Because it's that thing. I feel the cost would. I'm okay with it, but if there's kids out there that are not looking forward to going on the meat-free days, then I would kind of like to know about it, because it's quite interesting that it's a mixed bag on local authorities, with 20 have it and 12 don't. It's not far away from 50-50. So it's obviously different across the country. But I suppose I'd like to know whether the kids are aware of it, whether they even notice it. So I think like this report here is like the first part of it, but I feel we need to get a little bit more from the actual children using the service to see.
Quite happy to come back in, Chair, to to answer where I see. So I think there was maybe a perception this was something that was new that was introduced. So we're going back to 2019 that we've had meat-free days within the school meal menu. As I made reference within the report, on the days where there is no meat on it, there is no difference on meal uptake. So you could argue that if there was a desire for meat, or people weren't happy with that you would see a decline. Areas round about waste. So rather than specifically going, do you want meat on the menu every day, you could ask. There's lots of other questions that you could put round about the school meal uptake, and for me this is potentially driven by other circumstances, which is maybe around about ultra-processed, the availability of choice. I think for the team who've developed this particular menu that we're going to go into, have taken all that on board, and I think we have got a very balanced, varied menu that allows everyone to have a choice of what they want to eat. I know that the question that had been raised by Councillor Forbes and made reference to by Councillor Shires there was, but should somebody not have the availability to have meat every day? Is that up to us? And it's maybe something we can speak as a leadership team. Would it be worthy of putting that within a survey? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm quite happy to take that on board and give that consideration.
Thank you, Dougie. Councillor McCall.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not quite sure where to start with this report. I mean, first of all, I want to thank Caroline Shires for getting ahead of me, because she pretty much said most of what I would have said in the first place with regard to ultra-processed food in particular, and using suppliers that are very much pro-vegan, not just pro-veg, which is concerning. I think that there's a number of issues here. I don't know why this wasn't brought to the Joint Committee for their approval and review before being introduced. I know that there are a number of parents who have opted out of school meals altogether, which might explain the 61% increase, not just because there isn't a choice of meat every day, but also because of the ultra-processed foods and processed foods generally agenda. I think I mentioned earlier on about the new National Framework for Population Health. And I think that, you're silent on that particular subject, and you really need to not be silent on it. You need to understand where they're looking at health and nutrition, etc., etc. So I think there's a number of areas where this report is a little bit disingenuous. I think the report has come forward just to justify the status quo rather than being more balanced. And I also just, as a matter of course, I know from my own postbag and casework, and I'm sure I'm pretty confident that the rest of our councillors in our area, maybe because Perth and Kinross is more rural, people want to see food that's freshly cooked, not food that's bought in processed. And that's the general observation, whether it's meat or otherwise. And there are plenty of non-meat options that wouldn't be meat substitutes that people would love. I've yet to find a child who doesn't like macaroni cheese, for example. And there's nothing in this paper that suggests if it was, if there was different options and there was a meat-free option. I'm sure there is every single day. So I think there's a lot of dissent. I think among the parents, particularly in our more rural wards, who are growing up beside freshly grown vegetables and freshly and home reared meat products, I think that they always feel they're hitting a stone wall when although you might engage with them, nothing seems to change. So I'm not. I mean, I can note the report because that's all we've been asked to do, but I'm not at all happy about this at all. I completely support Councillor Forbes and his interest in getting having meat-free days removed, and I'm basing that largely on casework and feedback from our constituents right across the whole of Perth and Kinross. So I'm not at all happy with the report. I'm not at all happy the fact that we're using ultra-processed providers of products to meet that ambition. So like I said, I think that maybe might explain why there's only a 61% uptake, and perhaps the positive feedback you're getting are for those people who are still engaged with school meals, and those who have already opted out aren't engaging at all. That was a comment, not a question.
Dougie, would you like to reply to that?
Yeah, so what I'd like to say, first of all, the report was asked of where the decisions came from. It wasn't to come forward, so it was for information of where that decision was made. And I said it was made involving officers from the 3 councils, engagement with elected members at that particular time round about the Soil Association. So to be able to tie in with the Soil Association accreditation, there has to be a meat-free day. So regardless if it was Pro-Veg or Soil Association, that's where that came from. And there's a discussion, and I think that would have to be with officers within the councils round about decision making. When is it a strategic decision versus an operational decision? And this is very much seen as operational decisions round about being able to take on board areas round about guidance and regulations that the officers have to take into account. With regards the menu, we have listened to the stakeholders. So if you're looking at the menu from 25-26, and what we've done for 26-27 has reduced a significant amount of the ultra-processed foods that are within there. We've introduced whole food alternative options, such as the use of lentils, peas, pulses, to be able to do that. I think within the 20 days that are available, there are only 8 occasions where there is what would be referenced as ultra-processed foods. And there's even ongoing debate round about the categorisation of those ultra-processed foods. So for me, Councillor McCall, we definitely have taken on board what the stakeholders have been engaging with us, and developed a menu that I hope, that does see an increase in that free school meal uptake, and also general uptake on the meals. As we've touched on already as part of this committee meeting, if we have meals that people don't take because they don't like them, it's a meal that's wasted. So we do have to get that balance between what everyone wants to eat, and we are continuing to do that. And I see that as being something that is a progression. As we've seen when we introduced, or when the Scottish Government introduced the Food and Regulations guidance back in 2020, we had an edge of the cliff falling off of school meal uptake because there was such drastic changes with regards to the types of meals that we're able to provide, the salt, the sugar content, and we have learnt from that if you make drastic changes, it can have a significant impact with regards to the school meal uptake. So collectively, Tayside Contracts, our 3 council partners, all those who take the meals, we're looking to listen and build on the positives that we have achieved so far.
Thank you very much, Dougie. Are there any more questions? Oh, Councillor Dorn.
Durno. I've got my grandchildren that are the Tayside Contracts police surveys from every week that come in, and on the whole, the meals are good in primary. The only thing would be I was asking maybe on the meat-free day, maybe they could have tuna, because tuna's sort of like meat. That would be the only request on a meat-free day, maybe have a tuna pasta or something like that. And the other thing is, are we taking into consideration that children, especially boys from the age of 10, eat big meals? They eat bigger meals than what 5-year-olds do. And that's something that I find that they're still eating sweets after lunch because they're still hungry, even if they've eaten puddings and tiffin bars and whatever. So if that could maybe be looked at, I don't know how you could do that, but just make the portions, or maybe they can get extra when they're going, because they are going to school meals, but if they're still eating rubbish after, it's not particularly good. And the other thing, from a high school point of view, we always wonder why the kids go to Tesco's to get their baguettes at lunchtime. And on investigation of a baguette last week, there was the French-style baguette with the cheese in it, but that was it. No butter, no mayonnaise, nothing. It was as dry as a bit of cardboard. So that's maybe something that's got to be taken into consideration. If you want them to stop buying the Tesco baguettes, I know you're stipulated by sugar and salt, but it has to be tasty, because if they're not going to eat it all, it's just a waste for everybody. But apart from that, everything else is fine. Thank you.
Dougie?
What I would say in relation to the portion size, there is a difference between those, and I think it's 1 to 3, and then from 4 up to 7, there is a different portion size. So when they come up, those that are serving them know that through bands, etc. They wear. So there is a difference. You know, I know it's been back in the day, I probably could have ate my mum out of the fridge, no problem, and we'd continue to go back to it. There's some others that don't, and we do obviously have to make sure that we are getting that balance, so we still have not just the nutritional side of things. We can't just go and overfeed, right? Okay, give somebody double the amount, because that isn't also complying with the regulations. In relation to the secondary schools and the baguette, that's something that I'm presume that, or I'll say that a booking takeaway, I wouldn't be expecting a baguette just to have cheese on it, right? Okay, but again, we can't go and put lots of butter and lots of mayonnaise and everything to make them the tastiest, because then they don't comply with regulations either. But yeah.
Thank you, Dougie. Councillor Shire.
Thanks, Convener. It was just to get some clarity around Dougie's point to Councillor McCall, and that was about the pro-veg. Sorry to go back to this. And you referred to whether it was a strategic or operational decision that would be taken around that. And it was just to get a commitment that those discussions are being had, because as a councillor for Blairgowrie and Glens, I know that the community I represent are very much looking to know that pro-choice agenda is being made, and I think if we, in all honesty, dig into the goals and aspirations of pro-veg sounds great, but pro-vegan sounds like something that is removing choice, and that's certainly not something I want to look at my local community in the eye, and I'm not going to want to support that organisation. So if there is a strategic versus operational discussion going on, then that's great. If it's not ongoing, can it start? Because it's really something that it's actually something I feel really passionate about, and I know that other elected members do too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any more questions on this item? If there's no more questions, is this report noted? Noted. Thank you. Item 10, additional public holiday for the Scottish World Cup. Dougie, would you like to introduce this report?
Yep, thanks, Chair. So this report details the options available for Tayside contracts in light of the Scottish Government's approval for a one-off national bank holiday on Monday the 15th of June to mark Scotland's men's football teams reaching the World Cup. The report is inviting the Joint Committee to decide if they wish the organisation to mark this occasion or not. Looking for the Joint Committee to note the different options set out and decide if they wish the organisation to mark this. So an overview, what we've got is constituent councils have taken different positions. and this does have an impact on how Tayside contracts will go about their service delivery. So Dundee City Council is granting a public holiday, Perth and Kinross are not granting additional leave day, and Angus Council are also not granting additional leave day. Historically, Tayside contracts is aligned with the three councils for one-off royal family events, but this request is for a sporting event, and there's nothing set in the precedent in the previously for us to consider that. So, detailed within the report, there are three options with the associated costs and some pros and cons. So, option one is not to mark the occasion. There's no additional cost to Tayside contracts or the three councils if that was the decision that was made. Employees will work as normal, but there could be some negative points. So impact on morale, issues round about childcare with some of the services within Dundee, and also we could have employees who decide to take increased short notice absence or actually call in sick. In relation to option two is grant an additional leave day, so that's estimated to cost 167,000. So that in effect is the cost to the employees on a day-to-day basis. So what would that mean? We wouldn't be undertaking works that day, so lost productivity. That particular cost doesn't include any on costs to Tayside contracts. That would be potentially perceived as positive for morale and union relationships. Also, if we've got at least one of the authorities that deals with issues that are when they've granted the holiday of caring responsibilities, but we'd also have to implement something so that we've got that flexible service to continue to deliver services across the other two authorities, both within Perth and Angus, who haven't. And the last option is granting it as a public holiday. So the total cost of that is estimated to be 290,000. So that's a combination of the 167,000, which has already been identified within option two, and then the additional payments that we would have to make as part of our terms and conditions for those who would be working on a public holiday. So that's like enhanced standby payments, hourly rate payments for public holidays. And that constitutes roughly about 1,300 posts. And similar to the pros and cons with regards option two. So we see that as providing some positives to the employees and their morale. They would also be the position where we would have challenges round about delivering the services in two of the council areas. So just as an overview of what that actually means for us, there's been no budget provision for these particular costs within the budget that we're going to be presenting later on today. So to deal with that, we would see that as being a reduction in the distributable surplus back to the three councils if there was a decision to grant the holidays. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dougie. Is there any questions? Councillor Cuthbert.
Got there before you. Yeah, it's originally a question for the clerk. In terms of the sort of the standing orders and so on, my understanding is that we would have to have a vote, a motion put forward to take one of the other options, but the status quo would be what would happen if there wasn't an amendment or if there wasn't a motion to something else. Does that make sense to you? It would require 75% of this committee to vote in favour of one of the other options.
That is correct, Councillor Cuthbert. That's correct, Councillor Cuthbert. The particular voting arrangements, as members know, of Tayside contracts is that 75% is required for a vote to be carried. So in this particular circumstances, should that not be the occasion, should none of the votes have 75 or options have 75%, the status quo ante remains, which is that there is no public holiday. I just want to say this is a bit of a mess, actually, isn't it? And I just wondered what's the stories for the unions, because you've got like Perth, not having a holiday, you know, a school cleaner or a working in a kitchen is not getting a holiday. In Angus, they're not getting a holiday, but in Dundee, they're getting a holiday. It's just an absolute mess, really. I don't know what they would say about that.
We have actually had the opportunity to engage with the trade unions. We actually had a meeting a couple of weeks ago which involved the full-time officials, and to be honest, there wasn't a strong view around about this from a union point of view. They haven't been, they've not had their members coming to them, you know, strongly encouraging them to promote that they actually get this particular holiday. So we have engaged. There isn't a strong view from the unions round about that. They recognise the position that Tayside contracts would be in was either one decision or one decision has to fit all three areas, and we would have to make adjustments based on the decisions that have already been made by the three councils.
Thank you, Dougie. Councillor Short.
Thank you. I think Brenda probably beat me to it. I just want to clarify that in Dundee we'll have no schools open, we'll have no libraries, everybody will be off. Therefore, we'll have a completely different scenario. So presumably the people in Dundee will effectively have the holiday. And I would like to bring in a motion asking for option 3. I was brought up in Invergowrie and my parents live in Carnoustie. I am a Taysider through and through. Now, it's not going to get 75% of the vote, I don't imagine. However, I want to be consistent. This is something that I was in Paris in 1998. It was half a lifetime ago. If you're on the Tayside, sorry, if you're on the bridge board, you'll know this. I'm very passionate about this holiday, so I would like to see Tayside contracts employees given the opportunity. So, Maureen, if I could ask if I could possibly put forward the motion that we go for option 3, please.
That's been noted. Thank you. Councillor McCall.
So, yes, I agree with Councillor Durno. This is a bit of a mess. There's not actually a motion brought forward here. It's just the recommendation doesn't recommend anything. I'm going to be quite clear here. I think that I would oppose a motion for a public holiday right across Tayside. For one thing, it would have a very adverse impact in both Angus and Perth and Kinross in terms of schools, if nothing else. I also would object very strongly to having any sort of reduction in any distributable surplus for Perth and Kinross, or indeed for Angus, because I can't speak for Angus, but I know for Perth and Kinross, we felt the cost of this public holiday was untenable in a time when we have significant public sector pressure on finances. I'm really pleased that Dundee doesn't seem to have that same cost pressure, but certainly in Perth and Kinross we do. And I would totally and utterly oppose that. I don't think there should be a public holiday at all. And if Tayside contracts are not able to redeploy those staff that are normally employed in Dundee City, then that's their operational decision to make. And if there's a cost associated with that, then let Dundee City Council pick it up. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And Councillor Wan.
Thank you, Chair. I would 100% agree with Sheila McCall there. I think this is, it puts pressure on people to have to get, especially in Angus, and that I suppose if we did grant the holiday to get childcare, for example, if it was the Monday holiday, now we went against it, and you're quite right, Perth did as well. This is something that should be borne by Dundee if any vote goes for number 3, but I'd certainly be opposing that and staying with the status quo for option 1. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Cuthbert.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. I put amendment in the chat because if there's a motion put forward and it's seconded, then we'll need to have an amendment so that there is actually a vote. Otherwise, the motion will get carried unanimously. So I put that in. I would be looking for someone to second my amendment to say we take option 1 and we do not have the bank holiday.
we're aware of that, Councillor Cuthbert. I think the way we're looking at the moment is that we have in the Councillor Short's motion option 3. I think Councillor Mills has indicated that he would second Councillor Short. I was looking at Councillor McCall's motion as option 1, if that's what she was suggesting, but I'm happy for either you to second Councillor McCall or for Councillor McCall.
I'm happy to second it if she's putting that forward. It wasn't put forward as a motion as such.
I beg your pardon.
That's fine.
Is Councillor McCall content then for Councillor Cuthbert's motion to be put forward? It's the same motion in essence.
Is this? I didn't actually say it was an amendment.
I beg your
Councillor
pardon.
Cuthbert is correct, but since he's formally put forward an amendment, then I'm more than happy to second it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor McCall. Councillor Stewart.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I spoke at the Angus Council meeting regarding this, so I'll just reiterate what I said at that meeting. I really can't understand how anyone can't watch this football match, which is 2 o'clock on a Sunday morning. It'll be finished by 4 o'clock, and how they couldn't be ready for their work on a Monday morning. I just can't understand why there needs to be any need for a holiday on the Monday. The match is on the early hours of a Sunday morning. So that's my view, and I would certainly support Councillor Cole and the other gentleman. I forget what his name was.
Councillor Warren it was. Thank you very much. If there's no more questions, I'll ask legal, will we go straight to a vote where we vote for 1, 2 or 3 for the committee? Yes. So the clerk will organise the vote. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the motion...
Sorry, can I ask a point of clarification? Has anyone put forward either an amendment or a motion for option 2?
No.
So in that case, is it a straight vote between option 1 and option 3?
Mm-hmm.
The motion and the amendment?
I beg your pardon, it is Councillor McCall, that's correct.
Thank you.
The motion is option 3, the amendment is option 1. Motion 3 is Councillor Short's motion. Option 3, sorry, is the motion Councillor Short's motion, which is to... Do you want to read that out?
Okay, so the motion by Councillor Short, seconded by Councillor Mills, is option 3, which is to mark the occasion and grant an additional public holiday for all Tayside Contracts employees to be taken on the 15th of June 2026 or a suitable alternative date later in 2026. The amendment by Councillor Cuthbert, seconded by Councillor McCall, is option 1. Do not mark the occasion. Employees would not be granted an additional leave day and would instead attend work on the 15th of June. I'll go straight to the vote. Councillor Nicholl.
Amendment.
Councillor Fotheringham.
Amendment.
Councillor Wan.
Amendment.
Councillor Tommy Stewart.
Amendment.
Councillor Shepherd. Unsure if he managed to rejoin. Nope. Councillor Durno.
Motion.
Councillor Cuthbert.
Amendment.
Councillor McCall.
Amendment.
Councillor Grant Stewart.
Amendment.
Councillor Welch. Councillor Welch. I'll move on. Councillor Anderson.
Amendment.
Councillor Shires.
Amendment.
Councillor Mills.
Motion, please.
Councillor Short.
Motion, please.
Councillor Scullin.
The amendment, please.
And yeah. And Councillor Welch, I've just recorded your vote. That is 4 for the motion and 11.
Can I not get a vote?
Councillor Lynn, you haven't asked me for
Oh,
my vote.
apologies, Councillor Lynn.
It's motion.
Okay, that
Amen.
is... I've got that, thank you.
Has my vote been taken?
Yes, it has, Councillor
Thank you.
Welch. Thank you. That is 5 for the motion and 11 for the amendment. Okay, apologies for that. That is 4 for the motion and 11 for the amendment, and the 75% has not been reached. Therefore, it is the status quo at the moment.
Well, thank you very much for the voting. The 75% percentage mark was not met, but so the status quo will remain, and there will be no holiday or public holiday. Right. Item 11. Programme of Meetings 2026. The clerk will provide us.
Thank you. This is an update from the last meeting on the 17th of November, where it was agreed that the Joint Committee be informed of any consultation exercise to be undertaken with the Valuation Board members as to the preferred day and time of the meetings to be held. It was reported that the outcome was reported at the last meeting of the Tayside Valuation Board. That was on the 9th of February 2026. And it was agreed that no further action be taken with the dates or times of the meetings remaining, and they will remain as programmed. This is just for noting.
Is that noted? Noted, yes, thank you. Confidential items. The clerk will... Oh, sorry. My apologies. Item 12, date of the next meeting.
Thank you. It's just to note that the date of the next meeting is the 15th of June 2026. This will be held in a hybrid format in Perth and online.
Thank you for that. On to the confidential items. The clerk will run us through that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask for the recording to be stopped and any press and public to leave the meeting.